My name is Marcy Berger, and I'm the Member Services Coordinator here at ASTA. Welcome to ACI Speedpay Consumer Pulse Survey, focused on auto finance billing and payment trends, presented by Darcy, Locke. This presentation is a part of ASTA's Business Partner Webinar Series, which allows industry experts to share timely educational topics directly with ASTA members. The webinars are designed to provide information that allow ASTA members to more effectively design, develop, and implement strategies for their company's success. For more information about the series or how to become a presenter, feel free to reach out to me following today's presentation. A few housekeeping notes. To ask a question, use the question box on the side of your screen. The slides and recording of today's webinar will be available on ASTA's website in the Webinar Resource Center. Finally, you will receive a survey after the webinar is over. Please take a moment to complete it. Your responses help us fine-tune the program so we can target the issues that are important to you. I'll hand it off to you, Steve, to read over Darcy's bio.
Thanks, Marcy. Good afternoon, and thanks everybody for joining us today for the session. My name is Steve Mounts. I am a product marketing manager with ACI Worldwide, and I'm pleased to introduce my colleague, Darcy Locke, who will lead us through today's session. Darcy's been a trusted advisor in the billing and payments industry for over 17 years and is chair of the ASTA Business Partner Board. When she's not working with companies to develop billing and payment solutions, Darcy likes to run a lot. She ran over 660 miles last year. Again, thanks for joining us today. Now I'll turn things over to Darcy.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks to all the participants for taking time from your busy schedules to virtually meet with us today. I hope you're staying well and playing it safe during these turbulent times. In today's discussion, we'll plan to cover a little bit about ACI. We'll then quickly pivot to discuss what's trending for April, given the coronavirus pandemic. And if that doesn't cause you to hang up and go back into triage mode, we'll move on to discuss general billing and payment trends specifically impacting consumer finance, as well as some bonus billing and payment trend discoveries. We'll wrap up with some tips for managing the new normal that go well beyond social distancing, proper hand washing techniques, and stockpiling of toilet paper. Plus, we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. Getting into a little bit about ACI. ACI is a $1.3 billion company headquartered in Naples, Florida, with over 5,000 employees in 39 countries, bringing a 24/7, 365 global support organization to our clients. We've been in the payment space for over 40 years and move $14 trillion a day in payments and securities. What this slide doesn't discuss is our talent, probably because there's no way to put a number on that. We have a solid team of industry veterans, and this team translates into success for our clients that is material and in many ways also immeasurable. At ACI, we make the complex payments process our business so you can focus on yours. For more than 40 years, only ACI has transformed the entire payment experience, meeting customers where they want to be met, not only when making payments, but for where and how they want to engage for viewing bills, receiving notifications, resolving delinquencies, receiving funds, and more. It's why 5,000 plus clients choose ACI to process $14 trillion every day, and while we're recently recognized by IT Group as the fastest growing biller direct provider and as having the most comprehensive solution. We empower our clients to drive change throughout their business and empower their success. Many of the major consumer lenders trust ACI to manage their billing and payments, including 6 of the top 10 auto lenders and 48% of the auto lending industry. Obviously, the world's changed a bit since this webinar was originally scheduled, so we did want to take a minute to acknowledge the current state of affairs. While this slide is titled Auto Finance Companies Are Trying to Adjust to the New Normal, it could easily say all Americans and all American businesses. We work closely with our clients on a regular basis, and we've heard about the impacts they're experiencing in their business. We understand how challenging the times are with call centers learning how to work remotely while handling huge increases in call volumes from worried customers. The auto and auto finance industries face unique obstacles, yet are stepping up to help the U.S. and its citizens, like the manufacturers, shift to making medical supplies instead of cars, and the finance companies quickly developing plans to assist their customers that are having difficulty making payments. These challenges are not limited to auto, but span the entire lending ecosystem, with many of our branch-based consumer lending clients spinning up remote ways to maintain business continuity that goes beyond call center staffing. Let's take our first audience poll. Has incoming call volume increased in your call centers, and if so, how much? Wow. The results of this poll are not surprising. Call volumes have skyrocketed across the lender spectrum. Adding to the constraints is the rapid spin-up of an unprecedented remote workforce. Worried consumers are calling in to report loss of jobs, medical hardships, and trying to make arrangements for payment plans, deferrals, extensions, forbearances, waived late fees, and more, creating higher average call handle times and longer wait times. We're finding that lenders with strong digital strategies for notifications, payments, and collections are best equipped to deflect calls while remaining highly proactive and responsive to customer needs. Pivoting now to discuss general billing and payment trends, at ACI, we conduct our Consumer Pulse survey twice per year to track how consumers prefer to receive and pay their bills, as well as their opinions on new technologies and services. We also ask questions about their general financial state and what drives their choices in billing and payment methods. This survey goes out to over 3,000 customers. The latest survey actually went out to consumers last week, so we'll soon see how the current crisis is affecting these choices, and we'll share that information very soon. Since we're pivoting now to talk about consumer behavior, let's do another audience poll. So this poll question asked, which household items did you stock up on for the current state of the environment? So these results are interesting and unprecedented for sure. Bread and milk, and I'll add eggs, I think we all get from previous snowstorms and whatnot. But who knew about the toilet paper and hand sanitizer, right? Finding some of these basics has become more of a scavenger hunt over the past few weeks, and it certainly came along with some unprecedented challenges for many of us. Moving into the survey results, first let's take a look at the number of bills that consumers pay each month, which includes everything from mortgage or rent to daycare. The list includes the 28 most common bills paid by Americans. The average of about 9 bills per person has remained fairly steady year over year. However, we did see a more significant downward trend on those that report having more than 15 bills to pay per month. The percent of people with a big stack of bills like that to pay has dropped by almost a third, from 7.8 to 5.4%. Now let's look at the percentage of people paying some of the most prevalent bills. Looking at the most commonly paid bills each month, mobile phones are top with 82% making a monthly payment. Electric bills rank second, while auto loans and leases and personal loans are not as common, with just under a third of consumers making a monthly car payment and even less making a personal loan payment. The percentage of consumers with auto and personal loans has remained steady year over year, though. While the number of bills paid per month has dropped, we're also seeing a lot of change in the channels consumers use to pay bills. Not surprisingly, we're seeing the biggest shifts in mobile, with more people becoming comfortable using their phones to view and pay their bills. For instance, 26% more consumers reported using the biller's mobile app to make a payment, while using the biller's website had dropped significantly. One surprise is the increase in phone payments, both IVR and CSR assisted payments. We also saw quite a spike in the usage of mobile wallet payments, those made using Apple or Google Wallet pre-installed on their phone. The biggest loser is snail mail payments, with a decrease of 11% year over year. And that's not terribly surprising given the shift to digital and all the more reason for companies to have a solid digital strategy in place. One area where consumers show consistency is the number of channels used per month, steady at about 2.6. While the number of channels has stayed mostly the same, we've seen shifts again, especially in the case of mobile. And the big takeaway here is, with consumers largely toggling between 2 and 3 channels, companies really want to meet them where they are when making payments. So what drives consumers to pay in each channel? Here are the top 2 responses for each channel. Note that it's the simplest option applies to 4 of the 6, perhaps indicating familiarity with the payment process in that channel makes it the simplest one. Also noteworthy is, for self-serve channels, the recurring theme is simple, convenient, and fast. Now we'll take a quick look at the methods Americans use to pay their bills in general. Consumers report using checks much less frequently, along with fewer payments made by ACH draft. However, an 11% increase in debit cards illustrates that many consumers are still paying with their checking accounts. They're just using their debit card instead of a checkbook. That goes back to the consumer preferences on the last slide for simple, convenient, fast, and certainly using what's in their wallet meets those criteria, as well as the growing consumer expectation of real-time transactions, and the immediacy of debit cards certainly fits that bill, especially for younger consumers who are easily confused by delayed financial transactions. We also saw a dip in credit card payments as consumers were looking to reduce debt. However, this may change in the near term with the current economic situation and where credit cards are permissible. Digging deeper into the methods, most people are creatures of habit, using just 2 methods to pay their bills each month. And even though paper checks are shrinking, paying through a checking account, ACH or debit, is the most commonly used method. As we saw with the channel choice, convenience and simplicity are driving the methods people use to pay their bills. Points and rewards continue to drive the usage of credit cards for bill payments, and that's where they're allowed. This is costly for billers, as payments made with a rewards card are assessed much higher interchange rates, and after all, someone has to pay for those rewards. Some companies offset these costs by charging a convenience fee, while others hesitate to do so because of consumer backlash. Next, we'll dive deeper into how people are receiving and paying their consumer finance bills. As we've gleaned, convenience and speed are what consumers look for when making a payment. While they are making more debit card payments, consumers report frustration when this isn't an option offered by their lender. They also get frustrated if they receive a reminder to pay their bill on their mobile device but can't easily make that payment. More than a third of customers report that they would consider using their mobile wallet to make a payment in the future, indicating more comfort in the security and reliability of the service. And this isn't on the slide, but worth mentioning here, with the attention span shrinking across all Americans, and especially younger consumers who have an average attention span of 8 seconds and high consumer experience expectations, at the moment the biller gets the consumer's attention with a reminder, it's critically important to provide them with a mechanism to pay using what's in their wallet for optimal reminder to payment conversion rates. Compared to the general payment trends we looked at earlier, we see a much faster adoption in the mobile channel, with 43% more consumers using their app from their auto finance company to make a payment. Adoption of mobile wallet payments is happening even faster, with a 62% increase in consumers saying they've used their wallet to make a car payment. Worth analyzing further, there was less of a shift in mailed and phone payments than other industries. You consider that in an earlier correlation to familiarity, perhaps being what makes the payment process simple. One of the takeaways for auto lenders who want to reduce these higher cost channels, paper and phone, is to better educate and train consumers on payment channels like mobile apps and mobile wallets. It's an important step toward increasing digital adoption and helping consumers' lives easier. For personal loans, the shift from the biller's website to the biller's mobile app is occurring at an even faster pace. Oddly, for personal loan payments via phone, we saw a drop in self-service IVR payments and a jump in those requesting CSR assistance. While still a small percentage of overall customers, mobile wallet usage was much more than doubled in just a year. Consumer lenders should take advantage of the digital momentum and double down on efforts to convert traditionalists over the next 12 months. Your call centers and branch operations will need the relief, and digital payments and notifications will be key. Let's get some additional feedback from the audience. Do you offer ways to make a payment on a mobile device? If so, which payment methods do you offer? You can choose all that apply here. Thanks for weighing in on that topic. To me, there are 3 big takeaways here from these results and in considering the survey results. Number 1, consumers use an average of 2 to 3 payment channels. Number 2, there's no silver bullet. And number 3, billers need to meet the customer where they want to be met when making payments with an easy, convenient, fast approach. Looking forward, expect to see adoption of mobile channels accelerate at a much faster pace. Considering the current situation, in-person or walk-in payments are expected to drop off quickly as these consumers find other ways to make their payments. The good news is adoption of digital channels is expected to increase in 2020, and this shift will be a permanent one for most people. Now looking at the methods that consumers use to make car payments. We see the same shift in how they access their checking account via their debit card instead of check or ACH draft. Check and draft are down 17 and 8% respectively, while debit is up by 11. Here again, we saw a drop in credit card payments in line with the general drop in card payments. For auto lending industry, it may be partially attributable to the stricter enforcement of card association rules prohibiting the use of true credit cards for debt repayment, with many lenders abandoning this practice. And Tessa, my PC just shut down on me. Can somebody else take over shifting the slides?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so for personal loan payments, we saw some unique shifts in behavior. While checks and credit cards are down across the board, consumers also reported fewer debit card payments, yet more direct ACH drafts from their checking account. Another unique shift is an increase in cash payments. However, this increase may be short-lived. As mentioned earlier, with our new pulse survey going out to consumers, it will be interesting to see if our prediction for 2020 on the rapid drop-off of cash payments holds true, with less consumers walking in to make cash payments at the branch. Will this be the new normal for branch-based lenders? And more importantly, are they ready for the rise in digital demand? Okay, next slide. Consumers will continue to migrate to debit cards instead of ACH drafts and expect more credit card payments where allowed in the short term as consumers hold on to cash. Thankfully, the drop in paper check payments should accelerate in 2020. Worth noting here, of those who prefer traditional check payments, the majority, 57.4%, are doing so because it's the option they're most familiar with. The takeaway here is billers can help cut the paper check for good by educating and training, or said another way, familiarizing consumers with the simplicity, convenience, and speed of digital options. Next slide, Marcy. Driving consumers to digital methods continues at a slower pace than digital payments. While more consumers report they need a paper statement for their utility bills, a higher rate have opted for digital statements when it comes to consumer and auto finance statements. For those who do go digital, the most popular reasons match up with reasons consumers choose digital payments. Again, convenience, speed, and simplicity. Next slide, Marcy. So we have to ask ourselves, why are consumers still holding on to paper statements? It's not the lack of detail in an electronic statement. It's more likely they use the paper bill as a reminder to pay or prefer it for record keeping, using an actual filing cabinet instead of saving it digitally. Let's get some feedback on the topic from the audience. How many of your customers receive only a digital statement? If you're an auto lender or consumer finance company in the 35 to 50% category, you match up well with your industry peers, doing very well and having opportunity to further reduce paper. For those of you in the more than 50% category, great work. you've obviously got the secret sauce figured out. For those of you who want to help the remaining paper loyalists over the hump, there are 3 important things you can do to help consumers go paperless. 1, provide an easy 1 or 2 click process for going paperless. 2, ensure digital statements are printer friendly for record keeping. And 3, offer alternative digital methods for consumers to receive their bill notifications and consider providing quick, easy tutorials for how to use these options. Next slide, Marcy. Let's pivot back to cover some bonus topics related to general billing and payment trends from our Consumer Pulse survey. Next slide, please. While adoption of electronic bills varies by generation, one thing that's consistent is the percentage that receive both a paper and an electronic statement. Next slide, please. Adoption of digital wallets skews younger, as you would expect, and usage drops off significantly for consumers over 50. Next slide, please. Younger consumers report less concern about online identity theft and are less likely to have taken any action to prevent it. Those over 50 are much more likely to have taken action to avoid identity theft, doing things to reduce their risk, such as creating strong, unique passwords, checking their credit reports on a regular basis, limiting what they share on social media, signing up for banking alerts, and then using 2-factor authentication to sign in. And here's an interesting fact. About 17% of consumers that have been a victim of online identity theft still say, of these folks, 77% still say they will continue to use digital channels to pay their bills. Next slide, please. These results were most shocking for me personally. If you look at this slide, we asked consumers to identify which bill they would pay if they could only pay one. Housing and electricity are the most important to consumers, and paying for the insurance that covers their car is slightly more important than paying for the car itself. And the interesting part for me is how much this has shifted. In years past, especially after the 2008 financial crisis, the most important bills were car payments and cell phone payments, now ranking toward the bottom. It'll be interesting to see if and how the prioritization shifts with the current state of affairs. Next slide, Marcy. We realize that things are changing quickly and we're all reacting to this new normal. I have a few tips to share with you to make things more manageable through these challenging times. Next slide, Marcy. First and most importantly, ACI is here to help you. Tap into our vast experience and knowledge of digital billing, communications, payments, collections, and disbursements. We've been helping manage payments since 1975 and are moving at a rapid pace to solve for evolving business and consumer needs. Next slide, Marcy. ACI's consumer marketing team quickly mobilized to produce a pandemic support kit, including but not limited to the examples that you see here. On the left is a list of ways to reach your customers and inform them of the easy, secure payment options available to them. Next slide, Marcy. As we saw earlier, billing and payments continue to shift to mobile channels. However, all customers may not be aware of them. Make sure you regularly promote options like this that enable payments in just a few taps in the case of mobile wallets, or a few brief text responses in the SMS channel. Next slide, Marcy. Many consumers have a tough financial situation are hesitant to discuss it with a stranger on the phone. Others that aren't may have difficulty reaching call centers that have extended hold times due to call volume. Going back to the new normal, worried customers are flooding call centers to report job loss, medical hardships, and trying to make arrangements for a myriad of payment plans, which is creating higher average handling times and longer wait times. You can offer a digital approach. Here's a look at Virtual Collection Agent from ACI, enabling consumers like this to self-report on their situation online and to work out payment options with their lender without having to speak with a live agent. The lender can configure the situational questions that are asked, as well as what offers should be presented to each customer. The system also has sophisticated modeling built in, so you can see the effects that various payment options will have on your whole portfolio before you actually offer them. Let's wrap things up with one more poll question. It looks like an overwhelming number of audience members support agent assisted, currently with some also supporting web. Call centers are being crushed right now. For instance, one auto lender told us just yesterday that their call volumes went from 1,600 to 16,000 overnight. Another told us they were asking their procurement people to get on the phone to start outbound dialing. I'm sure most of you here today are experiencing similar spikes. Leveraging digital tools for notifications, payments, and collections will best equip lenders to deflect calls while remaining highly proactive and responsive to customer needs. And that concludes our formal presentation for today. And it looks like we have some time to answer a few questions. If you could just please use the chat function to submit your questions to us.
Thanks, Darcy. Looks like we do have our first question. The first question is, the virtual collection agent looks interesting. Does it integrate with all collection systems?
Thanks for that question, Steve. Yes, we can link up with file transfers for most collection systems, and we do already provide these types of integrations for our existing virtual collection agent clients.
Great, great. Looks like we've got one more has come in. Thank you for sharing this data. Were there any surprises when sorting through the specifics?
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks for that one, too. Again, seeing that making a car payment is now a much lower priority than previous years, that really did surprise me. And also, how quickly mobile wallets are being adopted among all generations was another thing that was super interesting.
All right, looks like we've got one more question has come in, Darcy. And the question is, our paperless rate is pretty low compared to others. How can we get people to turn off paper?
Again, thanks for that question. As we've seen in the survey data, a lot of people keep their paper bill as a reminder to pay, and also, for record keeping. Continued consumer education and training, for me, is key. And, trying to provide those simple, easy tutorials where you can to educate the consumers. Make sure you inform the folks that they can set up digital reminders to pay via some of the channels, email, text, wallet notifications, or all of the above if you have them. And then also remind them that they can print that digital bill for their records. I think are all key points to getting that adoption rate up.
Okay, that's great. One more question's come in, Darcy. I'm going to go ahead and field this one. Someone's asked about the session. They said it was a great session and they'd like to know if they can get a copy of the presentation. Yes, Darcy from AFSA is going to be sharing that at the end of the call. Don't see any other questions coming in, Darcy, so I'll go ahead and turn it back to you to wrap things up.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much, Darcy and ACI, for the great presentation. Remember, the slides and recording of today's webinar will be available on the Webinar Resource Center.
Thank you, Marcy, and thanks for the insightful questions, participation in our polls, and mostly for carving out time from your extremely busy schedules. We recognize time is the most important thing a person can spend and the one thing you can't get more of. Thanks again for spending this precious commodity with ACI. Stay safe and well, my AFSA friends and colleagues, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys live soon.
Thank you.